guys, if you're new to Deception Bytes, hit the like and subscribe button and be sure to hit the bell to be notified of future videos. If you wish to support the channel, the links are in the description below. Now, fasten your seatbelt. Here we go. Okay guys, I'm back and it is Monday, July 15th. And it's 6:56 p.m. Eastern Time. Now, what we're going to do, I missed a couple posts from July 14th, and so we're going to go over those, the Q posts, and then I'm going to jump right into, in the same video, into Q-related news, because there's just two posts. They're very, very short. It's not worth making a separate video for that. So what I'm going to do is just cover those, go right into the Q related news, and if we don't cover it in one video, I'll do two. So there you go. All right, we have no new Q post for today yet. That doesn't mean that we won't have later, and I'll see about bringing those to you if Q does in fact post tonight. So let's get started. Just a quick update as to my my new cat, Xander. He is doing very, very well. He's just fitting in like he's always belonged here. He is the nicest, best cat I could have ever asked for. Very cuddly, friendly, very laid back, and a perfect companion for Sammy. Sammy and he are just loving each other's company and are happy as clams here. Although I really don't know why they say clams are happy. They don't look especially happy to me, but you know, I guess to each their own. So let's get started, shall we? Of course we shall. All right, now this is, these are the last two posts that I missed on July 14th. Obviously, Q posted these after I had uploaded my video. And the first one says, "A week to remember, Q." Now, since this was posted on Sunday, I would imagine that Q is talking about this upcoming week. It's going to be a week to remember. That is what I would assume. And the second one is Smollett. Of course, we all know the story about that and how he said that he was attacked by some men wearing MAGA hats and so forth, and you know, they put a noose around his neck and he was crying and boo-hooing and everything, and then it turned out that no, he had staged it and they were black men actually, no MAGA hats. So it says here, Smollett, federal charges coming. Well, we know Q. The question marks can be generally tossed out. So what he's saying is, Smollett, federal charges coming. Watch the news. These people are stupid. Q. And, you know, when Q first started saying these people are stupid, I thought, well, you know, I wouldn't exactly call them stupid. But now, like after, what is it? Almost 2 years. It's getting there anyway. I'd say he's right. They are pretty stupid. And I don't know if it's stupidity or they're just cocky. They've done it for so long and not got caught that they're just cocky and they think, well, no one will ever bring us to account. We're okay. Yeah. Well, they're not okay, and they will be brought to account. And that's good news for all of us because we all want to see that, and we want to see justice for the victims, although some of the victims are dead, and, you know, justice may come, but, you know, a little too late for them, unfortunately. Now, what we're going to do now is get right into the Q-related news, and I'm going to go there now, and you can't stop me. All right. Now, let me just preface this by saying that I'm a little bit behind with the news because I've been covering Q. So some of this is, I think all of it is still pertinent. And if you haven't heard it, then I think you need to. Hopefully it'll be new to most of you. At least I hope so. I would like to think that I'm bringing you things that you haven't heard, but some of you are very well informed and know a lot of this stuff already. All right, this, and I'm not going to go into the article because I don't think it's necessary, but Naval Air Weapons Station China Lake not mission capable after Ridgecrest earthquakes. Now that's interesting if you ask me. It says non-essential active duty drilling reservists, civilian employees, and dependents are authorized to evacuate to a radius of 100 miles from Naval Base, Ventura County. Now, this struck me a little odd. 100 miles that's quite a ways. What is that? 2 hours? I guess not quite 2 hours, but that's a good distance away. Why so far? Why are they wanting them to evacuate that far away? What are they expecting? Are they expecting a huge earthquake? Are they expecting something at that air base? I guess it's an naval air weapons station. I don't know, but that struck me it just didn't quite connect with me. A radius of 100 miles. If you are somewhere and they say, well, this is not mission capable, and you need to evacuate, well, what happened to it that makes it so dangerous that you want people 2 hours away? That's my question. Don't know. If any of you know, if any of you are in that area and you happen to know, please put it in the comments below, because it's good that we keep each other informed. And I learned plenty of stuff from you guys. Let me tell you, plenty of stuff. Or I'll say something and someone else will add something to it, and I'll think, oh, I didn't think about that. That's a good point. Or they'll have information that I didn't have. So it takes all of us. I'm not the onlyest one, and there's lots of people on YouTube that are good to listen to as well. And there are lots of people just out there listening that have good information as well. So there you go. We are the news now. Yes, we are. All right. And this is interesting. I'm behind on this, but there has been so much other stuff going on that I didn't get to this. But this is from the 10th. So we are, about 5 days behind. So that's not, it is pretty bad, because, they call it news because it's new. All right. It's interesting, though. Anti-Christian attacks in France quietly quadrupled. Why? Well, I think we all know why, but let's take a look at this. In fact, they are saying now, and statistically, Christianity is the most persecuted religion on earth at this time. So all you people that are saying, because the end times, we know that Christians will be persecuted and killed for their faith. And so, a lot of people say, I'm not seeing that persecution. No, you're not seeing that persecution in America, but you're seeing it in other countries, including countries like France. Are you kidding me? France? I would think that France should be a pretty safe place. Well, not anymore. Now, Lavar, I think that is how you pronounce it, but I'm not sure. France, late one night a few months ago, 2 teenage boys crept into the massive 13th century Cathedral of St. Allen in Lavaur, a postcard town in southwest France. There, they set fire to an altar, turned a crucifix upside down, threw another one into the nearby Agout River, and deformed a statue of Jesus into what the town's mayor called a grotesque pose. Townspeople were shocked that 2 local boys could commit an act of such gratuitous vandalism against, of all things, their town's most historic and treasured site, a towering, massive Gothic structure that has stood at the center of Lavaur's collective life for over 700 years. But there is nothing at all unusual about an attack on a Christian religious site these days in France, or for that matter, anywhere else in Europe. The French police recorded 129 thefts and 877 acts of vandalism at the Catholic sites, mostly churches and cemeteries in 2018, and there has been no respite this year. The Conference of French Bishops reported 228 violent anti-Christian acts in France in the first 3 months of 2019 alone, alone, taking place in every region of the country, 45 here in the Southwest. In all, according to the French Ministry of the Interior, which counted 875 anti-Christian incidents in 2018, slightly less than the tally by the police, the attacks on Christian sites quadrupled between 2008 and 2019. This has stirred a deep alarm among many Catholics and non-Catholics alike, worried that a powerful hostility to Catholicism, what they call Christianophobia, is sweeping their country. And indeed it is. And we know why. They're not maybe going to say why, but we know why. And that's not the only country. Anywhere that Muslims are in the majority, then anti-Christian acts follow, including beheadings, destroying any religious statues, which I'm not big on that anyway. I don't really believe in religious statues, but that is just me. That is my opinion. But, destroying them does send a message. And, it's not just vandalizing churches, burning down churches. There were a massive amount of church burnings in France, which they never mentioned when Notre Dame burned down. Well, it didn't burn down. It could have. It didn't. But it's interesting because that wasn't the only one. Yet it was never mentioned that there had been like 800 other fires in churches. Yeah. And France is not a big country. That's a lot of church burnings. This kind of thing causes real consternation. Henry Lemoyne, the mayor of the town of the English Channel, told a Catholic magazine after someone broke into the tabernacle of the local church and scattered its contents on the floor, evidently in search of something to steal. People feel that their valuables are under attack, even their very beings. Moreover, while there has been more attacks in France than any other European country, thefts and vandalism at Christian sites have been on the increase throughout Europe. The Observatory of Intolerance and Discrimination Against Christians, based in Vienna, documented 275 anti-Christian incidents in Europe in 2017, up from 250 the year before. And we know, of course, as well, that, ISIS and these kind of fringe terrorist groups target Christians. They target them, and they believe that they have the right, if a woman is not a Muslim, then they can kidnap them for their sexual pleasure. They can rape them. In fact, they're instructed to rape them by the Quran. Yes, they are. And they take that seriously. So anywhere where you have the amount of immigrants of that caliber increasing, you have an astronomical increase of rapes. And in Sweden, the women don't want to go out by themselves. They can't go out by themselves because if they're raped or gang raped, nobody does anything about it. And, that's the least that could happen to them, which just that alone is pretty horrific. It's out of control, but nobody wants to talk about it in the mainstream news. It's just not talked about. I mean, it's really not talked about up here. If somebody commits a crime and they are of that persuasion, of that ideology, then their name is not mentioned. If it is a white person, their name will be mentioned. Very interesting. All right. And yet, what may be the oddest aspect to all these attacks is the relative quiet that has greeted them. Individuals, mayors of affected cities and towns, some priests and bishops have spoken out, as have a few Catholic organizations, notably a group called the Observatory of Christianophobia, which publishes an almost daily chronicle of incidents, but the official French Catholic Church has chosen to downplay the attacks. We do not want to develop a discourse of persecution, Georges Pontier, the head of the French Bishops' Conference, told the National Catholic Register. We do not wish to complain. I don't really call that complaining. I think it's just stating facts. I don't I mean, I guess it is complaining in a sense, but justifiably so. Most major media outlets in France have also downplayed the uptick in attacks. Among the major French newspapers, only the conservative Le Figaro has published a substantial front-page investigation. Others have published a few scattered articles on individual incidents. The absence of palpable public alarm led one magazine, Causeur, which specializes in a certain irreverent skepticism regarding the conventional wisdom, to run a series of articles on the attacks under the overall headline, Explosion of Anti-Christian Acts, the Victims That Nobody's Talking About. This in turn helps explain meager coverage, excuse me. Just one moment. Had that coughing off at the pass. Okay. This in turn helps explain meager coverage of the attacks in other countries, including the United States. The first time that many Americans heard of the incidents was when some French people wondered whether the fire that engulfed the Notre Dame Cathedral in April was another act of anti-Christian violence. It was not. I'm not so sure. But why are these attacks escalating, and who's behind them? We know. The answers are complicated and, in a very French way, depends on the lens one chooses to see the events through. Those downplaying the vandalism, which include most leading newspapers and politicians, point to evidence that the attackers are the small-bore criminals of small-time miscreants. Those concerned that the attacks pose a more serious threat expressly dismiss that perspective. Vandalism in our churches, from simple graffiti to desecration, was the headline of an investigation into anti-Christian attacks in Le Figaro. In March, stained glass windows broken, statues decapitated, graffiti on the walls. This is not the work of petty thieves, I agree. Not surprisingly, both views have merit. What is clear is that the attacks and the debate over their meaning illuminate a range of fundamental questions roiling France and Europe involving populism, national identity, and immigration. The attacks also highlight the paradoxical role of the church, which remains a symbol of power, a bulwark of tradition and authority, even as declining attendance and a series of sexual scandals involving priests have made it seem weak and an easy target. Nearly 3 years ago, France was stunned when two men proclaiming allegiance to the Islamic State murdered an 84-year-old priest, Jacques Hamel, when he was celebrating Mass in a town in Normandy. The crime came after some of the worst terrorist attacks in French history carried out by extremist Muslims. The killing of 12 journalists at the satirical weekly Charlie Hebdo and the massacre of 130 people in Bataclan Theater in Paris in 2015, and gave rise to the fears that Catholics would be targeted by the Islamic State or other violent groups. Since then, Muslims in France are believed to have been responsible for a number of attacks or planned attacks against Christian sites and symbols. In 2016, for example, police foiled an attempt by Muslims to blow up a car near the Notre Dame Cathedral. Last December, a suspected Islamic extremist killed 5 people and wounded 11 in a gun knife attack at a Christian market in Strasbourg. There have also been several well-publicized assaults against Jews, allegedly carried out by Muslims extremists. Indeed, while attacks on Christian sites have increased, so have attacks on Jewish ones, more than 500 of them in 2018, according to the Ministry of the Interior, a 74% increase over the year before. Now, I'm not going to go on. This is very, very long, but I wanted you to be aware of it. And it goes on to discuss it, ad nauseum. But that's it for us. I just wanted to give you a good idea of what's happening. This is from www.realclearinvestigations.com. If you wish to find it and read it for yourself and continue reading it, you can find it there. But I wanted to say that in Toronto, there was a video, and I wish I could find it again, of an elderly Muslim man. And he was shouting, "Come back, Hitler, finish the job." Come back, Hitler. Yeah, that's really how they feel. They hate the Jews, first of all, and secondly, they hate Christians. And they believe that we are infidels as well. They believe that anyone that doesn't believe as they believe are infidels, and that they are entitled to kill, rape, maim, drag the women off as sex slaves. They feel they're entitled to that, and they feel that they will get, I think it's 70 virgins in the afterlife. Okay, I don't know how there's going to be, all those virgins to go around, and this is my question, really. Okay, they believe that they get 70 virgins in the afterlife. Okay, well, what did those poor virgins do to have to live in eternity being the sex slave of one of these men? What did she do? What did she do wrong? Because that's not heaven for her. That's hell. So I don't get that. But they're supposedly both in the same place, paradise, the afterlife, and they're one's but see, they're probably so twisted that they think that this poor young virgin needs to be just happy and thrilled that she will forever be raped and tormented and have babies for all of eternity. Sounds like quite the life, doesn't it? No. All right, let's go back now. I know I'm chatty today. I don't know. They fixed my air conditioner. It is absolutely wonderful. So I got it really, really cold in here, and then I shut it off. Although this one is actually really quiet. It doesn't sound like a jumbo jet taking off or, a freight train. So I may, as the summer goes on, if it gets really hot, I may turn it on low while I'm recording, because I don't think you would notice much of a difference, if any. But for now, it's cool enough in here that I can record, and that's all I'm concerned about. All right, so let's go on to the next one. Now this is gobsmackingly interesting. Yes. Theory. Now this is from James 2Q19. And they said, theory. Birmingham, Alabama has one of the top hospitals for neurology and neurosurgery. What if Angela Merkel was in Alabama seeking treatment for her recent trembling? Here's one of her personal aircraft, possibly with her on it, leaving Alabama this afternoon. Now, I don't know. This was from several days ago, so it's at least 5 days old, this. And let me see if I can make this bigger for you. See, one of her personal aircraft was seen leaving Alabama, and that's a little odd. Don't you think? What was she doing in Alabama? And obviously this person has connected the fact that in Birmingham, Alabama, they have one of the top hospitals for neurology and neurosurgery. And she's been seen now on at least 3 occasions trembling very, very badly. And to me, it does not look like, I had, of course, now I eat properly and I've got it under control, but I had really bad diabetes. And I would, at times, like if my blood sugar would get low and I would shake, but not that kind of shaking. Her whole body was shaking and she was trembling, like really trembling. So I don't think it was low blood sugar. I definitely don't think it was dehydration, because those are not the signs of dehydration. And I think it's obviously something neurologically based. So what that is, and whether it's the same thing that Hillary is suffering from, and perhaps for the same reason, I think you guys know what I'm saying without me having to spell it out. I don't know, but it was her personal aircraft, and it was leaving Alabama. And it is here. I can't make that big enough to be able to see, but they have obviously tracked it. So I think that is very interesting. And who knows? Who knows? Okay, now we're going to go on to this. I've been meaning to get to these things, but they were less important than some of the news that were coming out. So I'm getting to them now. Better late than never. Or is it better never than late? I had a high school teacher that used to say that. Better never than late, because I have a reputation for being late. I know you're saying, no way, but yeah. Okay, mad cow disease comeback. Oh, yay! UK on verge of second epidemic as people silently infected. Mad cow disease claimed the lives of almost 180 people 20 years ago, but scientists are now warning the UK could be on the verge of a second wave of the deadly epidemic. And I've read a lot about mad cow disease, and a lot of times a cow will have that disease and be harvested for food. And, that meat is ground up. And, when you go to McDonald's, you might have the meat from 100 cows in your burger because it's just all put in together and mixed up. All the beef from all the burger, or all the beef from all the cows that are slaughtered that day go into it. And it gets made into patties and sent out. But you could have conceivably, there could be the DNA of like 100 to 200 cows in just one burger. It's possible. So if one cow was infected, and then it could be in your burger, not enough to make you sick, but enough to cause neurological damage. That is at least what I have heard, and that some of the neurological diseases we're seeing could be a result of that. I don't know. I'm not a doctor, and I don't play one on TV, but I have read that. I do keep up with natural news and all that stuff. I'm really into natural medicine and alternative medicine, and I do try to treat things naturally when at all possible. If my leg needs to be stitched up or something, it's, you got to go to a hospital. But other than that, I do try to treat myself naturally. And it's been working for me so far. All right. So anyway, yes, I know I'm chatty tonight. The spread of the disease, officially known as bovine spongiform encephalopathy, BSE, remains Britain's biggest ever food scandal, and now scientists have admitted they are uncertain of how many people in the UK are silently infected as they predict another outbreak. Experts warn anyone who ate beef between 1986 and 1989 would have eaten meat infected with BSE, meaning they could be incubating the killer disease without knowing. Yeah, and really, for all of you that were alive in 1986, which is, I assume would be most of you, most if not all of you, then, how many of you would raise your hand if someone said, did you eat beef between 1986 and 1989? Yeah, of course you did. You must have had at least one hamburger or one roast or something made of beef. And I know that's in the UK, but I believe that more of that is in the United States and Canada than they like to admit. All right, and hang on here. It's a horrible thing, though. The cows suffer horribly. The disease has an incubation period of between 30 and 50 years. 30 and 50 years. That's a heck of a long time. That means you could get sick, and it could be from a hamburger or a roast or something you ate 50 years ago. That is gobsmacking. I don't care who you are. I don't know. I know I use that word all the time. I only heard that word within the last probably 2 years, and I love it. I think it's Australian, if I'm not mistaken, and I love that word, so I just keep using it. BSE reached epidemic proportions in the 1990s, requiring more than 4 million cattle to be culled. Yeah, that's like... BSE can be passed to humans via the food chain, causing a non-curable and fatal condition called Creutzfeldt Jacob disease. According to the NHS, symptoms of CJD can develop anytime between a few months and 2 years. Neurological symptoms include difficulty walking, slurred speech, numbness, dizziness, and vision problems. Oh yeah, and then there's zombie deer disease too. I talked about that before. Can you imagine? Like all these diseases, and I know up here, if the deer are diseased, a lot of people will suffer because a lot of farmers, or not farmers, but a lot of hunters here, they hunt deer and they fill their freezers for the winter with it. And, and we have a large native population up here, which also hunts deer, as they've always done. And they eat it. They eat every single part of it. They utilize every single part of the deer. But this is becoming more prevalent, the zombie deer disease. Okay, that's a whole other subject, and I got off on it, but let's go back. Some of the psychological symptoms include severe depression, extreme despair, anxiety, withdrawal, irritability, and insomnia. As CJD develops, an individual's physical and mental condition deteriorates further until they are unable to communicate or move. In the final stages of CJD, a person will become bedridden and require 24-hour care. The cause of death is usually caused by infection or respiratory failure. BSE was first round in UK cattle in 1986 and rapidly spread to 180,000 animals. The disease was transmitted to countries around the world, including the United States, Japan, and Europe. Exports of British beef were banned for 3 years in 1996, with the European Union lifting the restriction 3 years later. I remember that very clearly. Isolated cases have been reported in the UK in recent years, with a case in Wales in 2015. This is making a comeback, as are a lot of diseases and pestilences. The plague is back. There's so many things now, and it's just, you just hear about them one after another. Measles. I never knew anybody, at least in my local area, to die of measles, and now people are dying left, right, and center from measles. It used to be that maybe very, very young children would die if they were immune compromised or whatever, but it was rare. Not anymore. There are people dying left, right, and center from the measles. And dengue, that was never deadly. That was never wouldn't kill you. It'd make you think that make you wish you were dead, really, from what I've understood from people that have had it. They've described it to me in detail, and really it makes you wish you were dead. It's awful. It's absolutely hideous, but it doesn't kill you, and it doesn't make you hemorrhage. Well, this new stuff is. I think a lot of this is caused. I think they are helping these diseases along, if you know what I mean, and I know you do. So let's go back now and get into the next thing, because we can. Where am I? Over here. Okay, now I can't remember what this is. It may be really old news by now. I've forgotten. Oh yeah, you guys have probably heard about this. UC Berkeley had a no whites allowed day. Are you kidding me? Really? Apparently. And let's just give a listen here.
Kids are just getting riled up. Now watch the way this one little girl runs up to this white guy who's trying to get through. I mean, what is her end game here? Is she looking to start a fight? What's going on? Look at that. They're getting offended because people actually just want to go about their day.
Now, I don't want to just go on listening to them chant and talk about stupidity, but these white students go to school there. They had classes there that they had to miss because all of these people were rioting or whatever and saying no whites allowed. These are people that paid their tuition, got their books, and are attending class, and they're not allowed in. Not for any other reason than the fact that they are white. Now, please tell me how that isn't racist. I don't know. But it seems that you're allowed to be racist against whites. You just can't say anything else about any other race. And I agree with that. I don't think we should be, we need to attack each other, or not attack each other, but we need to come and discuss things one-on-one, not on the basis of race, but on the basis of ideas. Who cares what your skin color is? And, so I agree. We shouldn't be, judging or whatever based on the color of one's skin, but the content of their ideas. That's what they should be judged on. Sorry. And I don't know how they got away with that, and I don't know how that is not racist. But it seems that, when you've got people literally apologizing because they're white, are you kidding me? That's like me saying, I'm sorry I'm short. Oh, I'm so sorry I'm short. It's such an insult to the people that are, are you kidding me? Like, you can apologize for something you can help. Like, oh, I apologize that I was really nasty to you the other day, or, something like that. But you can't apologize for your skin color. It was determined before you were born. It was determined at the point of conception. You had no conscious decision, in it. But it's sad. I hear more and more white people apologizing because they're white. It's a sad world. Neither should Black people have to apologize for being Black, or Hispanic people for being Hispanic, or Chinese for being Chinese. No. It's ridiculous. It really is. I've never, honestly, if someone had told me when I was a child that this world would exist, I would not have believed it. I would not. And I remember as a child reading through the book of Revelation, really studying it in depth as a child, because I was that curious, and thinking, I don't know. I can't even imagine a world like that. Not anymore. It's like ripped from our daily headlines, the book of Revelation. Okay, let's go on now, because I could just chat all night, and, you don't have all night. Okay, exclusive. U.S. Virgin Islands Senator on Epstein. Widespread corruption in territory. He has people on his payroll. Now, that doesn't surprise me, and I'm pretty sure it doesn't surprise you either. U.S. Virgin Islands Senator Oakland Benta, St. Croix, Democrat who previously served as the island's chief of police, is speaking out in an exclusive interview with Breitbart News about billionaire Democratic donor Jeffrey Epstein, and demanding wide-ranging investigations into the territory into Epstein's and others' alleged widespread corruption. There is widespread corruption within the territory that needs to be addressed and looked at with fresh eyes, Benta said in an exclusive interview with Breitbart News on Thursday. And this is from the 12th of July, so we're only 3 days behind at this point. There is a widespread corruption in the wake of fresh charges in New York City brought against Epstein. Benta says that the authorities in the U.S. Virgin Islands, both locally and federally, need to probe into more potential crimes that may have been committed. A career law enforcement official who was chief of police in St. Croix for many years before his election to the territory's legislature, Benta is concerned there may have been both federal and local crimes committed with regards to trafficking minors for the purposes of illicit sex acts. Now, we know that. We know that there have been both federal and local crimes committed there. And that is why I don't understand why he's being held in New York, because I would think that this is a federal case, but I guess I'd be wrong. Being an investigator as well and understanding the dynamics, the police department now needs to work with its federal partners very closely because we have interstate trafficking across state lines of minors, Benta told Breitbart News. If you move across state lines, that is a trafficking offense. At the end of the day, there are so many souls that have been placed in these positions that don't have the wherewithal or the assistance, and they're saying, please help. Now we can actually encourage them to come forward because they know that justice will be served once it is brought to the correct ears here in the territory. Now there is a belief and a trust that services will be rendered and justice will be served based on who they speak to within the territory. Benta contends that Epstein, whose infamous private islands in the U.S. Virgin Islands served as home base for alleged illicit activities, ran a massive influence operation to get powerful politicians, nonprofit organizations, law enforcement, and government agencies charged with stopping such corruption and criminal activity from focusing on him. He, Epstein, has people on his payroll, Benta alleges. Oh, I bet he does. Powerful people. He has campaign contributions. He has donated a lot. He has donated to a lot of agencies and nonprofits. Maybe part of the reason why they're not vocal is a lot of the nonprofit organizations have been recipients of contributions from Jeffrey Epstein and a lot of surrounding programs with children. One person of note on Epstein's payroll is the wife of now former U.S. Virgin Islands Governor John DeJong's wife, who, as this reporter revealed in 2012, was working for Epstein while her husband was governor and herself facing a bribery scandal. According to a Bloomberg News report this week, Cecil DeJong still works for Epstein per his company's published records. Benta is demanding the local government of the U.S. Virgin Islands step up and root out the public corruption. Yesterday, I made a point of privilege and launched a skirting address to my colleagues that we need to engage in this process of dire concern within our territories because at the end of the day, it falls on our shoulders whether we will continue to work under the auspices of a corrupt enterprise which is identified as a white-collar crime destination, which, under the U.S. jurisdiction, we are identified as such, and these sorts of behaviors we are not by ourselves, because we have a lot of agencies that are funded federally that are supposed to safeguard this territory from these types of behaviors and crimes against persons, most of all, children. That was one heck of a long sentence with no period. Yes, things like that drive English majors to drink. Not quite, but just about. Benta told Breitbart News on Thursday, I'm the only elected official in the territory, the only government official in the territory who has said anything about this issue from the time it has begun until now, he added. It's everywhere. It needs to be the responsibility of all of us, every single person in the government. We now need to hold every single person within the respected agencies accountable for doing what they are supposed to do, and if not, address it appropriately if they are not doing what they are supposed to do. If you know something, say something. Or if you should have known something, that also is a caveat for us to apply justice when it comes to corruption in the other direction. Benta also had strong words for the potential criminals lurking in public positions throughout the U.S. Virgin Islands. Benta's interview with Breitbart News came just hours before now former Secretary of Labor Alex Acosta resigned over criticism he was not tough enough on Epstein in a 2008 plea deal. Acosta resigned on Friday. Benta mentioned Acosta's role in the matter, suggesting authorities locally in the U.S. Virgin Islands have been using kid gloves when combating corruption in the territory. The gloves are off, he said. I say that because we love boxing. I for sure have called this to the attention of all my colleagues. Combating this vexing issue, as disturbing as it is important to protect our children, who we created in order to protect our future. And it's not just their children, it is all of our children, all the children of the earth, because who knows where those children came from that were taken to that island. I think they came from everywhere, including Haiti. And I think that a certain couple had everything to do with that. So, Mother Justice will serve her purpose, Benta added. If you use our soil, our region, to perpetrate these acts against children, we must see justice. Benta also called on the new Attorney General of the U.S. Virgin Islands, Denise George, to investigate the matter. The Attorney General, she is female, Denise George, and just got seated into that position within the last 2 weeks. She needs to pay attention to the sex offenders list that falls under her purview and needs to make sure we have an account of all those who are in the territory and who come into contact with our children from elementary through high school, and any sports like baseball or softball, any organization that has children being the main caveat to those programs, that we hold each of those registered pedophiles in the region close to our chests as far as our observation in terms of who they are engaging with in the territory, Benta said. So that is good. It is good that they are taking that stand. Maybe a little bit late, but better late than never. So that is good. And I really do hope that there are widespread additional charges brought against Epstein, and there should be, because they have found, a safe with a lot of pictures. Not all the people have been identified, not all the underage girls, and I don't know if there were boys or not, but they have not all been identified, and there was a lot of things found in the raid of the, I'm so sorry that I'm yawning. I shouldn't be, because I went to bed early last night and had a good sleep. So for the first time in probably a week and a half. So anyway, okay, let's go back now. Yeah, they found all sorts of stuff in the New York place, the Manhattan residence. Biggest private home in Manhattan. Could you imagine what the worth of that is now? And it was given to him. As well, the Virgin Islands facility, that island, his own island, Little St. James, was also given to him. How does that work? He's got to be doing something pretty powerful for the person that donated it, Les Wexner, the guy that heads, I think it's called L Brand now, used the limited Victoria's Secret. Yeah, there's a big story there, let me tell you, a big one. And I have a feeling it's going to come out. So let's go on, because we can. Now, I found this interesting, and this was from the Vote board. I think it is from it's from the Q Research Vote. And it says, notable on Pelosi and the border. This is damning. Oh my gosh, what is it with me and yawning? Okay, you guys that have been listening to me for a long time, did I ever yawn? It's only been the last 3 shows. It is unbelievable. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the heat. I don't know. I know heat really does wear you out, especially the humidity. Makes you very tired. Okay, that's my excuse, and I'm sticking to it. All right. Now, notable on Pelosi and the border. This is damning. Repost from 8chan. Anon's doing great work today. Anons, I need your help to dig much harder and deeper on this one. Lately, Nancy Pelosi has been in the news fighting to do anything on border security. So I got curious and started looking around. Since Jeffrey Epstein has been in the news, I decided to follow the same theme. Here is what I found so far. Excerpt, after California's then Attorney General Kamala D. Harris announced felony pimping charges last year against the 2 owners of Backpage.com, a classified ad website that is a hub for sex trafficking and prostitution, one of the men cut a $10,000 check to House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi's Super PAC. $10,000. Okay, Pelosi, what's that about? And And here, Nancy Pelosi, Super PAC, keeps donation from back page donor. Here is what I found so interesting. Excerpt. This one is interesting, even though it covers mostly the same thing as the story above, except this one part I find interesting. Since 2010, the owners of Backpage and their wives have shoveled about $99,000 to candidates and about $95,000 to Democratic parties in Arizona, Colorado, and New Mexico, all heavy trafficking states, according to federal campaign finance data collected by the Center for Responsive Politics. The lion's share of these contributions to state parties since 2010 went to the Colorado Democratic Party, despite the Backpage owners all residing in Arizona. They handed over a total of $70,000 to the Colorado Party. All the donations were made in 2014. And does this name sound familiar? Ms. Cinema received the most Backpage money by far. Federal campaign records show that she took in $34,400 from the Backpage owners and their wives since 2010. Isn't she from Tucson, Arizona? Pima, is it Pima County? Pima County, anyone? I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but I can't see any, unless it's Pima, but that doesn't sound right either. It must be Pima County. Anyone? Isn't that the same group of veterans trying to slow down the trafficking going in that area? It's time to dig, fellow Anons. Let's dig. Yeah, and wasn't it Arizona that the CEMEX factory was, which has very strong ties to Nexium and as it turns out, also to Epstein, I do believe, is what I've been reading. And they found it was evidently a place that they had trafficked children through. It was obvious, but it was covered up, and they were called crazy. So I do believe that was in Arizona. But correct me if I'm wrong. And it says, see, now that I'm really concentrating on not yawning, it's like the more you concentrate on it, the more you want to do it. Symbolism will be their downfall. So I thought that was a little interesting. Yeah, I'd like to know what Pelosi has to say for herself about that. Why did she accept $10,000 from the Backpage people? A known site for trafficking. Why did she accept that? You would think she would know what kind of website it was. So why would she accept $10,000? I'd like to know. I really would. And if I was in her jurisdiction, no doubt I would march down to her office and demand to know why. Really. In fact, I wish that I sometimes, I know it's hard for me because I'd love to be able to go to some of these places and, ask these questions to people on camera and see what they say. Because I'm not shy that way. If I know that somebody has been involved in wrongdoing, I'm not shy that way. I'm shy in other ways, but not that way. All right, let's go to, and here is another one about this very same thing. More dirty money. Well, that seems to be all of the money that she has is dirty money. I do believe that. I think that, how she got the money that she has on making, I think it's under $200,000 a year, although as Speaker of the House, she does make more than the average, but it wouldn't be more than, if it is more than $200,000 a year, it's not much more. So I don't know how she earned all these millions and 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 millions more. Don't know. I'd like to know. How do you get that rich? Working in a civil service job. I'd like to know. I mean, sure, that's a good salary. Absolutely. And you would expect her to have a very nice house. Yeah. you'd expect her to be able to afford nice clothes and so forth, but you don't expect her to be a millionaire like over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. But maybe that's just me. No, I don't think it is. Pelosi pocketed donations from owner of sex trafficking website. What a gal she is. Democrats like to claim they're the party for women. Yeah, they're the party for trafficking women. But their words are not backed up by their actions. They never are. What's new about that? As a matter of fact, in most cases, they're harming women's causes. Yeah. Now we're learning that Nancy Pelosi and a group of Democrats have taken donations from a man who owns a sex trafficking website. How on earth is that being a champion for women? Well, I don't think it matters to Nancy Pelosi. All that matters is that green stuff. She loves the green stuff and power. Power and green stuff. After California's then Attorney General Kamala D. Harris announced felony pimping charges last year against the two owners of Backpage.com, a classified ad website that is a hub for sex trafficking and prostitution, one of the men cut a $10,000 check to House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi's Super PAC. Mrs. Pelosi's Political Action Committee, House Majority PAC, has resisted giving the money back. And an aide to Mrs. Pelosi said the California Democrat knows nothing about the contribution. Oh, right. Yeah, I believe that. Oh, sure. They never know anything about anything. Why are they in a position like that if they don't know anything about anything? Because, anything like this, anything controversial, oh, she didn't know about that. All right, the uproar over sexual harassment that began with Harvey Weinstein scandal has intensified the scrutiny of political contributions linked to Backpage, which law enforcement officials say is the chief platform for activities far worse than harassment, including sexual slavery and child prostitution. Mrs. Pelosi isn't the only Democrat struggling to deal with the piles of cash that Backpage's owners spread around to candidates and state Democratic parties over the years. Even Ms. Harris, a California Democrat who is now U.S. Senator, ducked the issue. Her office wouldn't respond to repeated emails about Backpage money going to House Majority PAC and other Democratic organizations. Well, naturally, she wouldn't address that. She's too busy putting on a fake accent to pander to the blacks. Even we read that. Since 2010, the owners and their wives have shoveled about $99,000 to candidates and about $95,000 to Democratic parties in Arizona, Colorado, and New Mexico, according to the federal campaign finance data collected by the Center for Responsive Politics. And of course, some of this is a repeat of what we just read from Vote. Bowing to mounting pressure, including a bipartisan Senate investigation that found the owners knowingly sold ads to pimps who coerced minors into prostitution, Backpage in January closed down its adult services section. The website, however, continues to be marketplaces for the sex trade. Detroit police last week arrested two men who were using Backpage to run a sex trafficking ring after an underage girl told police she was brought to the city and put to work as a prostitute with dates arranged on the website. In June, a Chicago man was arrested after using Backpage to sell a 16-year-old girl who was eventually killed by a client. Such stories of prostitution and sex trafficking linked to Backpage are relatively commonplace across the country. The founders and controlling shareholders of Backpage, Michael Lacey and James Larkin, and Backpage executives and shareholder John Brunst and Scott Speer have made fortunes from the website. In California alone, Backpage rakes in about $2.5 million per month, according to the charging documents in the Golden State. Mr. Larkin made the contribution to the House Majority PAC in October 2016, a week after he and Mr. Lacey were charged in California, a judge citing Federal law that shields internet sites from most liability dropped the pimping charge in August. Related money laundering charges are proceeding against the men. Legislation spearheaded by Senator Rob Portman, Ohio Republican, would tighten federal law to hold accountable websites such as Backpage that host thinly disguised ads for commercial sex and child prostitution. The bill is expected to easily pass the Senate early next year. There is still the question of what to do about the Backpage money. Asked about the contribution last week, House Majority PAC Executive Director Charlie Kelly said the money already had been spent. Well, there's other money that they could, I'm sure that they have the money to give back. I mean, that's ridiculous. The contribution from James Larkin was received and spent during the 2016 election cycle. So it's spent. Give it back anyway. Dig into your pockets and give it back. The allegations against Larkin are reprehensible, and HMP will not accept any future contributions from Larkin or his associates at Backpage.com, he said in a statement to the Washington Times. An aide to Mrs. Pelosi said she had no role in this contribution and she did not solicit this donation. Right. Let's believe her because she's the one that said there was no crisis at the border, right? She's the one that laughed at Donald Trump and said, there's no crisis. There's nothing wrong. Yeah, we should believe her. The lion's share of the contributions to state parties since 2010. Okay, we already know that. They gave $15,000 to the New Mexico Democratic Party in 2014. Mr. Larkin last year made a single $10,000 contribution to the Arizona Democratic Party, according to the federal campaign records. An official at the Colorado Democratic Party said they were looking into the matter, but the party has been dodging questions about the tainted contributions since at least April. The Arizona and New Mexico parties did not respond to questions about their plans for the Backpage money. The Arizona Democratic Party has been under increasing pressure from its Republican counterpart to return the money or donate it to an appropriate charity. Earlier this year, an Arizona Democratic Party official gave the Arizona Republic the same explanation now used by Mrs. Pelosi's Super PAC. The money has already been spent. Arizona Republican Party spokesman Torun Sinclair said the excuse was absurd and disgusting. Well, yes, it's ludicrous. It's asinine. They obviously have the cash to return this dirty money. They just don't want to return it, she said. Arizona Democrats, including Congress members Kristen Sinema, Tom O'Halloran, and Ann Kirkpatrick, need to step up to the plate and tell them to donate the money. The Congress members also struggled to address the Backpage money in their campaign coffers. Ms. Kirkpatrick, who federal records show pocketed at least $16,000 since 2010, finally rid herself of it in September with a donation to the Arizona Coalition to End Sexual and Domestic Violence. Now, that was the right thing to do. Mr. O'Halloran also disposed of roughly $8,100. Ms. Sinema received the most Backpage money by far. Federal campaign records show she took in $34,400 from the Backpage owners and their wives since 2010. Getting rid of it wasn't easy. Under pressure to return the money, Ms. Sinema in April attempted to donate $10,000 to Friends of Public Radio Arizona, but the nonprofit balked at the gift of dirty money. Ms. Sinema ultimately sent all the Backpage linked donations to the Arizona Coalition to End Sexual and Domestic Violence. The lawmakers, however, have resisted putting public pressure on the Arizona Democratic Party to do the same. Ms. Sinema dodged the question Thursday on Capitol Hill. Why don't you call my office to get an appointment? I'm on my way to the train station right now. Have a great weekend, she said. Her office did not respond to requests for an appointment or comment about the state party keeping the Backpage money. So this is quite alarming. And I'm wondering, it seems to me that Q has alluded many times to the fact that they're getting their money from trafficking, and that, ending the border crisis, which they used to say don't exist. Now they say it exists, but it's Trump's fault. Ending that would severely affect their income. So I'm beginning to see that and really believe it. I didn't want to believe it, but there comes a point when you've had read so much and you've looked into so much and seen so much that you just have to say, you know what? I don't want it to be true, but it is, and I've got to accept it. All right, let's go back now. I think we are probably getting up to an hour now, and not nearly as far along as I wished I was. And this may be some similar. Pelosi, other Democrats pocket campaign cash from owners of sex trafficking websites. So this is more of the same, and there's probably nothing new here. So we'll go on from there. We'll skip that. We don't need to be reading the same news from different sites, because if there's nothing new to add, then it really just wastes time. All right, now let's look at this. I'm going to look at this connection here. Then I'm going to break, because I do believe that it's getting on in time and that I've been at this for a while. So let me just click on this. I think you will find this interesting. And if you don't, you can sue me. All right. No, don't sue me. It would probably be hard to, because probably, unless you're in Canada. I'm stuck up here. Okay. Rothschilds and NXIVM sex cult tied to alleged sex trafficking land in Tucson. So I'm right. It was in Arizona. Tucson, Arizona. I thought so. Now, let's look at this, shall we? And I think you will be glad that we're going to be looking at this. Lynn Forrester de Rothschild. Gosh, she looks really young for her age, doesn't she? Wonder how she does that. Could be, she doesn't look like she's had surgery. She might have had Botox, she might have had fillers, or she might have had another special substance. That's what I'm thinking. But she does look good for her age. I guess all that young blood. Yeah. Lady Lynn de Rothschild is chief executive officer. Let me see. I got to make this bigger, or I'm going to be stumbling my way through it because I'm blind as a bat. Oddly enough, though, I have 20/20 far away vision. So if I take my glasses off and look far away, I can see signs that make my friends go, "What? Can you really read that?" But I'm blind up close. Really, just about. It feels that way anyway. Okay. Lady Lynn de Rothschild is Chief Executive Officer of E.L. Rothschild, LLC, a private investment company with investments in media asset management, information technology, agricultural, and real estate worldwide. Lady de Rothschild has also been a director of the Estee Lauder companies since December 2000. I am never buying Estee Lauder again, and I do buy Estee Lauder. So, seriously, I just saw that and I thought, okay, that's it. I'm going to find a new company. I need to find a company that's not tied to any dirty money. So anyway, Lady de Rothschild has also been a director of the Estee Lauder company since December 2000, and the Economist newspaper limited members of the audit committee since October 2002. She is co-host of the Conference on Inclusive Capitalism and founder of the Coalition for Inclusive Capitalism. Okay, she is co-host of the Conference on Inclusive Capitalism and founder of the Coalition for Inclusive Capitalism. She is member of the board and executive committee for the Peterson Institute for International Economics and a board member of the Alfred Herhausen Society of International Dialogue of Deutsche Bank, the Alumala Foundation, Africa, the International Advisory Board of Columbia University School of Law, FAI, and the Aranda Foundation, de Rothschild Family Foundation. Lady de Rothschild is a member of the Council on Foreign Relations, USA, Chatham House, UK, the International Advisor Advisory Council of Asia House, UK, the International Institute of Strategic Studies, UK, and the Foreign Policy Association, USA. In 2000, she was number 4 on the European Fortune Most Powerful Women in Business. In October 2007, Lady de Rothschild was awarded the Commendator Ordine, whatever, something from Italy. Okay, now, I didn't realize, how does one woman do all that? I've always, wondered, like when you see people that, they have a list of all the committees that they're chair of or whatever, as long as their arm. And I'm thinking, how does one person do all that? Although maybe some of the, committees don't take a lot of time investment. I don't know, but it always makes me wonder. When somebody's resume is too good to be true, sometimes you have to wonder, maybe it's not. I mean, I'm sure in her case it is because she's a Rothschild, but. Okay, land owned by Cemex, a multinational building materials company headquartered in Mexico, is at the center of a controversy in Tucson, Arizona, where citizens say they have uncovered a sex trafficking bunker, which local authorities have refused to examine. Now, that should be the first clue right there. If you find, and it literally looked to me like a sex trafficking bunker, it was obvious. There was little children's toys and things in there, and and they refused to investigate. You got a problem. There's an issue. Somebody in, the law enforcement agency is corrupt, or somebody at the head of whatever law enforcement agency you reported it to. So, after alerting local and federal law enforcement about the situation and receiving no help, veterans on patrol rallied local volunteers together to physically dig up the site. VOP has amassed a groundswell of support and has vowed to keep the uncooperative law enforcement entities out of the site while they conduct a private investigation. They are hopeful to bring cadaver dogs on site to search the area. The local news media has stopped reporting on the group's activity. The situation came to a head Sunday afternoon when, according to the group, they dug up a bloody knife, female underwear, and a plane ticket of a potentially missing girl from Seattle. The group is trying to contact the girl's family for verification. They filmed the finding live on Facebook, and shortly thereafter, the police showed up and arrested 2 members of the group for trespassing. Can you imagine? Just imagine that you find this. And these are veterans, and they're making good use of their time. They find this, they are convinced that there's sex trafficking going on in the area. They go back, they dig it up, they find a knife, they find a plane ticket from a missing girl in Seattle, and they call the police, and they're arrested. What does that tell you? It tells me a lot. So, obviously, the FBI, or whoever this was, is not completely clean. Or at the very least, the local law enforcement there is not clean. The Rothschild connection to Cemex is clear. Now, this is important. Bronfman E.L. Rothschild, LP, a wealth management firm for high net value clients, owns a substantial share of the concrete giant. What's going into their concrete? I'd like to know. Wouldn't you? Why do these people want a concrete manufacturing plant? I'd like to know. What are they doing that needs all that concrete? Or is there something in their concrete? I'd like to know. But I'll tell you one thing. When they took a map of all the Cemex cement places and overlapped it with known child trafficking places, they overlapped quite nicely. Quite alarmingly, actually. So this is, well, it's beyond interesting. It's it's interesting, but it's horrifying, really. I can't imagine. I faced something a little similar to this. I mean, I reported something, and yeah, I told you that I'd had some run-ins with Satanists, and through my job, and I reported something that ended up getting me in trouble, but not the people that perpetrated it. And I knew then that I left Canada very shortly after that, and I left for the States. And I was actually quite nervous to come back, to tell you the truth. But I'm not in the exact same area, and when your mother needs you, your mother needs you. I'm her only child now, so I felt an obligation to do that. But yeah, I do know what that feels like. It's like, wait a minute, I didn't do anything wrong. But anyway, so let's come down here, and this is from AmericanBankingNews.com, and it says Bronfman E.L. Rothschild LP boosted its stake in CEMEX by 3.1% during the first quarter. Bronfman E.L. Rothschild LP now owns 11,014 shares of the construction company's stock worth $100,000 after buying an additional 333 shares during the period. So it's interesting all these connections we're making. The CEO of Bronfman E.L. Rothschild is Lady Lynn Forrester de Rothschild. That's right. She is a member of the Council on Foreign Relations. And here she is. The mayor of Tucson is named Jonathan Rothschild, but it is unconfirmed whether he is related to the dynastic family. Probably. You don't hear really too many Rothschilds. That name is not common. I don't know how. Probably they're all related in some respect, because it's just not a popular name. At least I've never known a Rothschild anywhere that maybe you guys have. I don't know. I think if you had the name Rothschild, doors would open for you, whether you were related or not. So the chairman of the board of Bronfman E.L. Rothschild is Matthew Bronfman, one of the heirs to the Seagram's liquor fortune. Yeah. Can anyone say Nexium? And I can just about assure you that these people are all connected in some way to Epstein as well. So Mr. Bronfman has been, okay, I'm not going to read his resume there. Bronfman's sister, Claire Bronfman, is the operations director of the Clinton-connected Nexium sex cult. His other sister, Sarah Bronfman, is a Clinton Global Initiative member. Like I said, the elites are a very incestuous group. They stick together, they intermarry, they're in each other's foundations and everything. Now, back to why mainstream media doesn't have this story front and center every day. In 2007, the New York Post reported that top executives of Nexium and their family members donated $29,000 to Clinton's 2008 campaign. At the time, Clinton downplayed the contributions from Nexium, but the donations don't stop there. Claire Bronfman, Seagram Company heiress, who has called herself the operations director of Nexium, is a repeat Clinton donor. Nancy Salzman, Rainier's partner and president of Nexium, was also a huge donor. Salzman and both Claire and sister Sarah Bronfman were allowed to become members of Bill Clinton's organization, the Clinton Global Initiative. Oh, the connections just keep coming. This is significant considering CGI membership is by invitation only, and they require a pledge of $15,000 per person each year. Senator Kirsten Gillibrand, U.S. Senator for New York, has also received money from Claire Bronfman, reportedly giving $2,400 to the New York Democrats' 2010 special election campaign. This is quite interesting considering Gillibrand is the proclaimed Me Too senator. Irony, anyone? With NXIVM being founded in Albany, I find it really hard to believe Gillibrand knew nothing of the cult and saw no connection between Bronfman and NXIVM. Gillibrand's father, Doug Retnick, worked as attorney for NXIVM around 4 short months in 2004 at the rate of $25,000 a month. Yeah, so let's go back here. And we're going to wrap it up after this. The Rothschild connection to CMEX is clear. Bronfman, E.L. Rothschild, LP, a wealth management firm for high net value clients, owns a substantial share of the concrete giant. So there you are, people. I bet that makes you feel a whole lot better. Probably not. So we're going to wrap it up there. And I am going to come back with another video tonight, and you're not going to stop me. I know you're saying, we don't want to stop you. But I do hope you'll come back and join me for it. And because I get lonely sitting here by myself talking, you know, I like it when y'all join me. All right, so that's it. I never know how to end. I always want to just keep talking and talking and talking. So that is it, and I'm going to fly for now, but I will be back. I'm going to upload this, and I will be recording another one while this is uploading. So thank you. You guys have a great night. Stay safe, stay well, and keep seeking truth, because deception bites. And also, thank you guys for your donations, your coffee donations, and your Patreon patronage, because it helps me so much. It helps me to be able to afford to take this time and do these, do this news and looking into these different things. So thank you very much, everyone. It's so much appreciated. And I will see you in the next video. Good night.